Avoiding family law conflicts during the holidays with Fran and Brett. Part of the series, Mediation Tips by Fran Brockstein. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and podcast by instantmediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Hey everyone, this is Mac Pierre Louis, attorney, mediator, arbitrator working throughout Florida and Texas.
And Natalia Ołowska-Czajka, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator from Warsaw, Poland.
And I'm Fran Brockstein, an attorney and mediator in Texas.
Hello, I'm Brett Levitt, and I'm the founder of FamilyReconciled.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are having this episode on avoiding family law conflicts during the holidays. And this episode is kind of special because we have two guests or two speakers who both have their own series on this podcast. And of course, we're all used to mediation tips by Fran. Fran's been writing and talking and videoing with instant mediations for over a year. And so it's been great to have her and her insights and all her uses as a mediator. And we also have Brett, who had just finished a 10-part series on reconnecting with family as part of his familyreconcile.com project. And so it's great to have both of these guys together in the same episode so that we can have them share their thoughts with Natalia and I over how to avoid family law conflicts during the holidays. Because as we know, this is a season that is fun and exciting, but at the same time can be filled with a lot of strife and family conflict. So with that, wanted to give the floor to Brett to kind of lay the foundation as to what he sees causes family division, strife, and anger and pain and resentment during this season, and just give a little bit of flavor to what it looks like when it comes to this season. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, thank you. And you said it. So it's an interesting time of year because you're coming into this time when many people, really look forward to this season, as you called it, or this time of year. Why? For a lot of people, it's because they're going to get together. They're going to spend time with people they care about, people that they love. So it's a time of what I would call connection. I think the other side is, though, and maybe a side that we don't think about that much or we don't see that much, especially if we have things, functioning really well in our family life circle or our friendship circle, is we don't see that for many people this is actually a destructive time of year. It's a beyond difficult time of year. It can even be severely depressing because they don't have that institution where they can get together and they can feel loved and they can give love. So again, it all comes back to connection. If this is a time of year because you connect well with people, this is you enjoy it. If you don't have connection during this time of year, it's exacerbated as to the loneliness and to the depression that can bring on in many people and that many people suffer with. And then if you add into that maybe even legal conflicts, individuals going through proceedings, families that are separating or going through divorce, and now you have this issue, especially if children are involved. You have this issue of, well, who does what and who gets what, and everything isn't spelled out word for word. There are some things that have to be worked out between individuals. How do you do that? How do you, when there's a loss of connection, how do you get through that? So I think those are some of the issues that a lot of people are dealing with, whether we know it or not.
And after Brett introducing us to the psychological aspects of what happens when we face the family meetings or family being disconnected and facing family holidays, the rest of us on this panel and being family lawyers and family mediators see what happens out of that in the legal proceedings and what sort of struggle people have to find a solution in legal terms. I do thank you, Brad, for bringing up these psychological and emotional topics, because I do believe that a lot of people forget that, for example, a mom that takes the kid and actually appropriates the child for the time of Christmas causes certain emotional reaction in the father of this child who would also want to have the child with them. I do believe that a lot it is being seen as a win or lose thing, whereas and people do not see this as some sort of sharing, as some sort of being a part of a common project, common situation that we need to deal with. And I think we need to focus now onto what we see legally, what's how we help try to help people to deal with that before we return to Brad for his insights, how we can also um, commingle it with some psychological aspects.
Yes, I found that many people have very high expectations in the holiday season, and often that does lead to depression or anxiety when things don't go the way they want. What I have learned over the years is to be flexible. And what I found, instead of looking at the holiday season as a challenge, I look at it as an opportunity. And I have found personally that if I have less expectations and just kind of go with the flow, that it's a lot more fun. In my particular case, after my divorce, um, everything changed. And so I talked to the kids and asked them what they wanted to do. And it was fascinating because a lot of the things they want to do were things I never thought of. And a lot of the things were really very simple and inexpensive. And I looked at it as an opportunity to develop new family traditions where the kids had input. Personally, I am always amazed when I talk to my grown daughter about holidays and things we did. Her recollection is completely different than mine. What she remembers, good and bad, are usually things that I never even considered. So, talk to your kids, put your kids first, ask them what they would like to do. And it's amazing sometimes if you're let them take the lead, suddenly you can all have such a positive input with the kids. And I've always said children never complain about having two Christmases.
Hmm. Exactly. So let's put this in perspective. The person who's watching this, who listening to this, might be uh, typically a parent of a child who is separated or divorced from the other parent of the child, and they have conflict between the two of them, um, or they don't co-parent well, and have a plan on how the holidays should be addressed. And what I mean by holidays, I specifically mean this time period from Halloween, i.e., who does trick or treating, then through Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas and New Year's, right? These like five big holidays that spans October 31st all the way until January 1st. And these 2 months, okay, of time, a lot of times the courts aren't even open to address the problems that people might face because of the fact that many courts are closed for the holidays. And so parents many times find themselves kind of on their own. Now, sure, if they have a court order already, it already addresses what they need to do, where the child needs to go, which parent gets what time, where the parent can travel, if there's any restrictions. But if they don't have a court order, then they're literally living in chaos. And I get a lot of calls around this time of year from people needing legal counsel who don't know how to deal with their significant other, or their ex significant other, and or when they don't know how to deal with the child if the child's a teenager. Okay, like you were mentioning a second ago, Fran. So there's so many types of conflicts that can come up, but I want Brett to kind of chime in on what are some ways we can go about addressing these conflicts, remembering that these conflicts mainly stem between parents trying to address, their problems themselves during the holidays. Brett?
Interesting dynamic. When I think about it, here you have a dynamic where individuals really need to connect and communicate at a certain level. And yet that's probably the fundamental reason why they're in their current process as it is. So they need to do something that they've probably already proved they weren't doing all along, which is put them in the difficult position they're in. And then I don't think there's any easy answer to that. I think that if you have help, right? If you have somebody you can call and you say, "Hey, what do I do?" Like, such as you've received, Mac, that's great. So that you can give them direction. If there is no court order, as you said, that's in place, well, somebody's going to have to say something. And who's going to take the initiative to say something, and what are you going to say? So if somebody wants to have the child and have the child and go somewhere, and there's no court order saying yes or no about it, well, to me, we just have to. I try to think more in reasonable terms of what would be the reasonable thing to do. What would a reasonable person do? Well, you attempt to, whether you communicate well or not with somebody that you're no longer together with, you attempt to communicate. You attempt to reach out to them and say, "This is what This is what we'll be doing. Wanted you to know that," and you do some sort of attempt there. Just going off and doing something or not doing something, if you have the right to do that, I guess you can do that. My question is, because you have the right to do something, does that mean that that's what you should do? um, how is that affecting the relationship going forward? How could that affect the proceedings going forward? So what are we building? Right. So I would ask myself, what am I building here? I'm going through this thing. I need to get through it, but there are some things that I can do to help it along. Attempting to do things that aren't easy, like communicate with somebody you don't get along with very well, that's difficult, but it can be done. I would start in an area like that. That's where I would start.
And then from there, we see what it can lead to. For example, a lot of people really perceive these situations as situations of fight. So they don't address the issue with the party that they should. Of what I see with my clients is that they come to me directly and say, "I want Christmas." But have you spoken to your husband or to your partner or to with whom the kids are going to spend Christmas? No, I haven't. I'm not going to. I have the right to claim that in the court. This is what I am going to do. And my first answer to that is usually write an email, set up your plan, because you know what? Perhaps we can avoid the court because perhaps your plan will fit in with his ideas or he can adapt. No, he's not going to do that. But have you tried? Please try. Make the first step. And usually, when you do something unexpected and extraordinary and kind on top, that can be quite well accepted. So my first advice or thing would be do something. I mean, do something out of the box, something that you have not thought of, and you are thinking about your Christmas or some Thanksgiving in terms of, I want to be treated well. Treat someone else well, and only then see what outcome you get.
And I agree, being flexible is a way to go. I'll use Mother's Day. And I know we're not discussing Mother's Days, but it's a perfect example in my family. I, my mother and I and my daughter would go out to dinner on Saturday night, and we'd have a lovely, lovely. We go to a lovely restaurant and have a wonderful dinner. And then on Mother's Day, she would go to my ex-husband's family because they had a huge buffet. So I always told my family that I should be worshiped 365 days a year. So that's how we resolved our issue. And actually my father was a Christmas Eve baby, and I did not realize when after he passed away how hard the first few Christmases were. It was sad because Christmas in our family had always been extra special because that was his birthday and football. So that took a big adjustment. And I didn't realize till that first Christmas how sad I was. It really brought up a lot of issues. So I always encourage people to put the kids first, ask them what the kids want. And the big, long story short, it's just one day. I'm always amazed at people having such unrealistic expectations. Sometimes when you lower your expectations, your joy goes up. So just go with the flow and have fun.
Can I add something to what Fran is saying there that I appreciated that she said? So when you're in a difficulty, with somebody else or someone's else, you become, to me, you become a consumer of information. And what I mean by that is you're trying to find the right thing to do and you want somebody to tell you what to do. And you especially want a really big, impressive legal professional like Mac to tell you what to do. Right. That's what people are looking for because they're looking for safety, or they're kind of protecting or hiding behind, they're protecting themselves. So they have. So I really need you to think about this. When I mean consumer is somebody looking for external information they can take in to decide what it is they're going to do, how they're going to do it. What I appreciate about what Fran said in her example there about Mother's Day is that she became a creator. See, she created something. She says we get together on Saturdays and we do this. So she created this thing with her family. And I think whether it's me, as a coming more from a mentoring side, or whether it's a legal professional such as the three of you are, um, I think we have a responsibility, and we should attempt to try to help them understand things like this, because you're not just helping them get through the case, you guys. You're also helping them grow as a person. Hopefully, with your counsel and your guidance, they can come out the other side and actually be a better person in some aspects, in some ways, than they were before they entered into it. They've grown. Now, as they go into the next relationship, perhaps, not always, but perhaps they'll be able to take that, what they've learned and how they've grown, and they won't find themselves in this position again the next time. So it's not just about getting them through the legal proceedings. It's about helping them to grow. One way you can do that is you can help them to see, are we being just a consumer here, or are we being a creator? Because when we become a creator, we become more self-sufficient, and actually we become more satisfied. And there's a whole host of other benefits that come from that. So Fran's little comment there kind of made me think about that distinction. And I think that's something that we should help others to focus on. Even if they don't know what it is or understand it, we have to help them do that.
And Brett, I agree with you, which is why I shifted from being an attorney to a mediator. I have found being a mediator being so much more personally rewarding because I do feel like I actually help people move on with their lives and quit being stuck.
So one of the big takeaways from that is always going to be that parties don't have to wait until they're told to go see a mediator to address their problem. They can just invite the other side to go see a third party neutral to help them resolve their conflict. Because this is the best time of the year in many ways, for many reasons, to do just that, right? Um, let's turn to some practical tips and points for the specific days I had mentioned earlier, these special days. For example, for Christmas, some of the things that I've done over the years as both an attorney for a client or as a mediator is to help parties think outside the box and create a Christmas solution that they might not think of otherwise. Because most of the court orders around the country, whether it's in Texas or Florida where I'm licensed, will have where you alternate, the Christmas uh, day or days. Okay. For example, this year we are in 2021 Christmas, odd year. Therefore, the custodial parent is going to have Christmas from when Christmas break begins until December 28th at 12 p.m. When it flips, the non custodial parent has it, blah, blah, blah. But do you have to follow that? Here's an example. If both parents are going to be um, in the same city, all right, meaning not too far from each other, why not share Christmas Day. Because let's face it, this is a time where many parents take the opportunity to give their children gifts and to teach them the value of gift giving and receiving. And for many other parents, it might be a religious day where they want to take their child to church the night before. Well, why not consider sharing the day in a way where you have Christmas morning being for one parent and Christmas Eve being for the other? Because the way we have it typically, the same parent gets both. Well, why not share it so that you can give your child the added joy of having two different households, two different Christmases on the same occasion every year? Now, this won't really work too well if you have to travel to another state or country to visit family. But if you're going to be in the same location, why not, share Christmas every year? So, but ladies, what other examples as attorneys have you thought of when it comes to Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's?
Can
Well,
I
I
add a?
like
I'm not a lady, but can I add a perception in here? Sorry. Sorry. um, one thing that you mentioned, Mac, is you said that when it comes to, again, it goes back to the. Let me put it this way: people, when they go to their attorneys and they go to court, most people are looking for being told what to do. Do you agree with that? They're being told what to do. That's what they think. So this is about, let me put it this way, this is about perception. And again, this is where we have to help. We have to help those that we're working with or associated with or mentor, whatever it is that we're doing. Okay, it's perception. They're being told what to do. If you went into the court and two people talked together and said, well, you know what, we're going to do this on this particular day, we're going to share 99.9, if not 100% of the time, what's the court going to do? They're going to say, oh, you worked that out? Great. Right. So they all go in there expecting to be told what to do so they can take this piece of paper and say, see, this is what we do. And this is, but I don't think they really realize that isn't the pinnacle. That's the bottom of the barrel. That's somebody else not related to you, your family, or know anything about you, telling you what to do. What they would rather see you do is get that figure. You can still go through the proceeding, but there are things that you can figure out and come to on your. That's a wonderful point. This is my point, Mac. Your point is wonderful. That they can work that stuff out together. That's the ultimate part of the goal. And again, it's perception. It's consumption versus creation. It's really part of our role here. If you're listening to this and you're a mediator and attorney, please consider educating them in this way and helping them to understand they have this control and this ability to create. If you're somebody who's going through the proceeding as a party, understand that if you didn't know that before, you know it now. And so you might want to think about, hey, what can I do to form a plan with the other party here? That also creates connection. And as I said, if you continue to go through the proceedings, don't you think you're paving a much better communicative path by going that way than just always having somebody come and tell the other person, this is what you're going to do? Nobody wants to be told what to do, even in these proceedings. So I just think, again, that's part of our understanding we need to share with those we're working with.
What people don't usually understand is that what they get from the court might not necessarily be what they expected and what they wanted. So sometimes what they are leaving the court with is something that they actually truly don't want. And that can be an incentive to talk. But let us say it's then too late because it's already in writing, and the other party who, let us say, was benefiting from it can just simply take advantage of it. So, yes, it's better to think about it beforehand and arrange for a settlement that will be effective for everybody. So that, of course, perhaps you need to move a little bit so that not all your goals, not all your needs, not all your expectations are met, but at least you get your minimum that you set up for yourself. At least you start taking the perspective of the kid who will be absolutely happy to have and to be benefiting from two families, from two family circles, two family traditions, and sharing these time is something that you also are teaching your kid. If you're teaching your kid that the family relationship, that the kid is stuck to one parent, it's not a good lesson because it's not how it should work. The wealth in life, the education that a parent gives to a kid is to take advantage, to live within the family circles they were given with their birth. That means two family circles. That means two different parts of traditions, sometimes stemming from different cultures, from different parts of the world. But it is a part of understanding and educating from the parents, by the parents, to see how fantastic for a kid it can be to have this richness in themselves, to know how this tradition and this tradition works, what my mom cooks and what my grandma, so my father's mom, used to cook, to learn all of that, to mix it and blend it into your part of living, to see how life changing and how benefiting it really is when you understand that the family itself is a gift, and to be able to live within it, notwithstanding the inevitable conflicts that it can bring, is the joy of life. And you teaching your kid how to avoid this family conflict. You are teaching your kid whether that it is worthwhile to work through possible conflict, through possible disagreement, that there are ways to reach agreement, and that will be something that will be profitable for them in their school life, in their future family lives. Our children learn from ourselves. They learn from the pattern we give them. So if we think about this Christmas, Thanksgiving, or whatever other festive time as a special time, let us think not only about the gifts and the time we'll spend together watching TV or playing games or whatever, but also in terms of what's extraordinary the kid will take away from spending time with us, whether it will have any educational process, any educational benefit to them.
And at Christmas, I think it's important, even when I divorced, I made sure my daughter made all my ex husband's family a little Christmas gift. Sometimes they were handmade, and they always got a birthday card, because I think it's very important that you teach children not just to receive, but to give. And I always viewed it as, what am I going to teach her for when she's an adult and on her own? Because what goes around comes around. And so a lot of this is so important. It's not about being winners or losers, it's about putting the kid first and making it fun for the kid. And if you're alone the first couple of Christmases, it is tough. So, what I found is to go out and do volunteer work, get out and help someone else. Hospitals need people, nursing homes need people. Where one time I went and gave out soft socks to 20 people at a nursing home in a little Christmas bag. And let me tell you, I got more hugs and kisses that year, and it was wonderful. And then another year, I took my daughter with me when I did it. And she got to see that the importance of giving to other people that are strangers that can never give us anything back at all. So I really encourage people to continue to teach their children by setting good examples.
Okay, go ahead, Brett, please.
I was just going to say it's okay. I know it's a difficult time, but I think it's also okay to embrace that difficulty. We shouldn't shield. We shouldn't overly shield from any kind of difficulty, especially the children. It's a time of growth, so it's a time of growth for the parents, right? The individual parents. It's a time of growth for them. It's also a time of growth for the children. So I understand because of the dynamics, festivities, the time of year. I understand all of that, but don't overly shield either. Don't try to make it so that there's nothing wrong. There's the appearance of nothing wrong and everything's okay. But children are smart, right? They sense and they know. So this goes back to Natalia's, and Fran touched on it, and Natalia touched on it. About the parents' responsibility or their role in what they're doing, what they're showing their children. It's okay to let your children see you deal with adversity and maybe not even know exactly what to do, but to see how you deal with it is the real lesson. And some people don't deal with it very well, and that's where you see those really hurtful dynamics in a divorce proceeding, because they just don't deal with it very well. And again, that's where we come in. Perhaps we can mitigate some of that for them and help them. But so don't overly shield from difficulty. There's growth there. I don't know of anybody who's ever not grown or grown because they didn't experience any difficulty. So it's good. I think it's how it's structured, how it's shown, and how it's taught. But be okay with that. I guess that's what I'm saying. If you're listening and you're going through it and you're just stressed and you're so anxious and you don't know why, the relationship fell apart, at this time, I think you need to exercise a little kindness. You need to be kind to yourself. You're not a wicked, bad person. I don't think the other person, even though if you've had difficulty with them, gets up saying, I'm going to be a wicked, bad person today. People are dealing with, they see the world as they see it. So let's start being creative about our solutions, and let's start being okay with adversity and growing through that and learning together. It's okay if a relationship goes a separate way. If that's what they're going to do, then no one can tell them what to do there. But I think it's how we approach these things in the model that we show for ourselves, right? It starts with ourselves, and then for children if they're involved too.
Nevertheless, Brad, I wanted to follow on that. Inevitably, at some point, when we exercised all our optimism, we tried being kind, when we did so much, we might find ourselves in a position where we are alone and depressed because of this time coming. And there are ways to help ourselves. And also, sometimes we are left apart because we disconnected. Maybe we did something wrong. Maybe the other person did us something wrong. What you, with your Family Reconcile project, do to help these people to get within the family circle? What would your tips for that be?
Each case is unique. I mean, there may be similarities. If somebody's isolated, there can be 3 people isolated. The reason why they're isolated is all unique and different. So there's no cookie cutter, one size fits all. This is what you do. If somebody finds themselves isolated, alone, depressed, dealing with these circumstances and the emotions with it, the very first step is to recognize it. The very first step is to call it what it is, and to understand, that's what it is. Once we understand, once we have the foundation of I'm alone, I'm severely depressed. I'm not in a good place mentally. Once we have that, once we can articulate that, then from that we can build on. Maybe we could go directly to some outside help, a mediator, a mentor, a facilitator, a social service worker, whatever it may be. You can take that route. Another thing I've come to understand for individuals in these kinds of circumstances is that depression, anxiety, loneliness causes a lot of lethargicness. It's very hard to move. So you can never come in and say, well, why don't you just do this? And you should just pick up the phone, and you should just go out on a walk, and you should just talk to your neighbor. I mean, that's the worst thing. Yeah, I mean, that would show such a shallow understanding of human beings and circumstances. You don't just do something, because I'll tell you this, if it was just about doing that, they would have done it. So it's not just about doing something. So it's about understanding first, and then seeing, okay, here's the particular circumstance. Some people are more motivated. Some people, even though they're in depression or what, are a little bit more motivated to do something. If you deduce that, if you identify that, then you can take a path. Now you've got a path, a groove you can work there. Somebody may be wholly unmotivated, and you're going to have to groove a different path for them. And it may be you working with them. It may be seeing that, and maybe just a visit and dropping something by and, hey, can I help you? Um, if you're a family member and you have a family member in this position and you haven't been attentive, hopefully your intuition kicks in and you can be attentive to that. So don't always put it on the person to reach out. Maybe we can reach out to them. But if you're a person listening and you're in that position, it may take you reaching out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Can you do that? If you can't do that, then find somebody who can help you do that for you, such as Family Reconcile, or such as Mac or Fran or Natalia. So there's gonna have to be some sort of effort. What I'm saying is the effort isn't easy, and we want to acknowledge that. But acknowledge the circumstance you're in, and then take a practical step to do that. Reach out for some help. Once you reach out for some help, then people can also work with you internally to help you kind of, overcome those self-limiting beliefs. But that takes time. It takes patience. It takes care. It takes compassion, and it takes empathy. It's not a one-off. This isn't something that's done and fixed in a day, or maybe even a couple months. It takes time. So our understanding needs to be somewhere around that area, just to get started. Just get movement. How about that? Just get some movement, one way or the other.
Yeah, definitely. All good insights. And the term that comes to my mind is a phrase called the auxiliary of time. I think people attribute it to Lincoln, but the idea that time is just a machine, it's just constantly moving forward and rolling, and sometimes passing us by. If we don't do something, then you're going to have 5, 10, 15 Christmases moved and forward where nothing ever changed. You never got the courage to go do something about it, to address the concerns between two parents over a child. And in the blink of an eye, child's all grown up, and they look back and they're basically like, wow, those were the examples of my childhood. And parents just need to take that seriously, that look, time's just passing you by. You only get a holiday, a set of holidays one time a year. And the years just sometimes keep moving and keep pushing forward. It doesn't wait for you. So you got to do something, right? So we're winding down now, but want to just kind of close out by letting everybody go around and just give their last points on what people can do and what's the best ways of avoiding conflicts during this time. Who'd like to start? Yes, Brett.
I'd like to say something about, it's an article I just wrote on social media on accountability. The article was, stop using the word accountability when what you really mean is punishment. And I see this trend in society. People throw around the word accountability everywhere. But I often wonder, and I'm pretty sure most of them don't really understand what accountability means. And most of them, when I hear what they're saying or read what they're saying, it's clear that when they use the word accountability, what they're really referring to is punishment. And punishment is an aspect of accountability, but it certainly doesn't embody accountability. Accountability is 4 things. And I'm going to mention accountability because I think as a parent, you're accountable to your children. Okay? You're accountable to them to set the example. And we've already talked about that. So it's not just, oh, that would be a nice thing if you did that. No, you're their parent. You brought them into the world. You're accountable. They're accountable to you for their actions, but you're accountable to them, for your actions, and also for what your role is. So what is accountability? So if a parent is going through this, since they're in proceedings, hopefully this is beneficial. It's 4 things. Accountability is self-reflection, number 1. Number 2, it's genuine or sincere apology when necessary. Number 3 is compensation or amends. And number 4 is change behavior. All those 4 assets are what accountability is. And here's what I see. generally most people don't care about whether you self-reflect. Most people don't care about genuine apology because or sincere apology. They don't even accept the apology. Why? Because if they do that, you're getting away with something. The third one is what they care about is the compensation, the restitution, the amends, right? And then the fourth one, again, back to 1 and 2, they don't really care about change behavior. So that's why I said stop. If you're really about punishment, then call it that. But stop using a righteous word like accountability, because accountability is not a one-off. It's a practice. It's something we practice every day. Guess what? Accountability is a gift. Accountability is a gift that you give as a parent to your child. When your child sees you self-reflect, when your child sees you offer sincere, genuine apology, whether it's accepted or not, when your child sees you make amends, doesn't have to be monetarily, it could be in any way. And when your child sees your behavior change. So if you talk about, we've talked about, the importance of setting an example for the children, teaching the children, teaching ourselves. Well, that's how you do it. You do it through accountability, and you do it through understanding what it really is.
And I always tell parents, if you want to be a good role model, be the best person that you can be. I think looking back on raising kids, that sometimes just sitting around the house, either doing chores or watching TV, are some of the most deeply meaningful conversations that we had. I used to laugh because when my daughter was sitting in the back seat and I would be driving at night, we would have very deep conversations. And I concluded it was because we didn't look at each other. And she felt safe in the dark, asking me questions that generally, if we had to face each other face to face, she wouldn't. And if you're having a rough time at the holidays, don't be hard on yourself. Love yourself. Give yourself some room to make mistakes. And if you want to be depressed, spend the day in bed. There's nothing wrong with that. Love yourself. Be forgiving of yourself. And a lot of people have trouble with that. We're our hardest critics, and we need to love ourselves more.
What I wanted to ask to add is that when a relationship that we have deteriorated, that usually takes two people to really first destroy it, but then to rebuild it. And it does need these four elements, as Brett said. First of all, notice that this self reflection, that it's not just someone else did me wrong. Maybe I did wrong something. Maybe someone is no longer talking to me because of what I did, not just once, but that was repetitive in my behavior for a long time. And they were sustaining it for a long, long period, but suddenly they said, no, that's enough. And you were not even informed that it was enough for them. But there is never too late to try and work on it. And what Brett was saying, sometimes you might need an additional person for you to lead you through it, to understand. But also, maybe this is also something you do need to change in your behavior, the way you address certain issues. Maybe bringing some more respect, maybe listening more to other people say, even your kids. They do have a lot to say.
All right. With that, thank you everyone for listening or watching. And we hope that these tips helped you with avoiding family law conflicts during the holidays. It's supposed to be a time of festivities and fun, not of depression and anxiety. And so, if you can help it, get the help you need. And if you can help it, work with the other side. But also, we're always here to help. Seek out a mediator, facilitator, anybody else who can assist you with these things. Okay, with that, signing off, this is Mac PLE, attorney mediator.
Natalia Łowska-Czajka.
Fran Brockstein.
And Brett Lovett.
Yes, and remember the websites for Fran is familylawforyou.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U. And of course, Brett is over at familyreconcile.com. And Natalia and I, we're everywhere. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye for now, guys. Thank you.
Bye.